life can seem unfair, but that's the very reason why life is fair. So in life, we often associate the feeling of being in what we call a race. Now, the thing about races is that they function in a variety in different states of mind, ways of being, levels of equality, right? And though the race in general is usually going from one destination to another, oftentimes we qualify or quantify a race by distance and time, right? How fast can you go from this point to this distance? This applies to life, right? We often think that life is a race. It's about how fast can you get from where you are or where you were, right? Where you were from, what situation you were born in, to what you desire and what it is you wish to experience in life. Now, here's another factor that people don't really think about when it comes to the race of life is you and whatever your identity is. Now, to compare that to a race, identity can be things like, you know, fitness level, right? That's the most obvious one. When you're running a marathon and you're preparing to run this marathon, you got to really take into account what your fitness level is. So that way you can then train accordingly, right? Train to the point of making sure you can actually fulfill the goal of the marathon, of the race. Some other factors can be, gender. Now, these are things that we think about in a multitude of levels and layers. Okay. You can look at this as a very physical thing. You can look at this as racially related. You can look at this as gender related. You can look at it spiritual. You can look at it metaphorically and just generalize life, as a whole. So I'm going to be mentioning things that kind of bounce back and forth between those because they are related. So again, we're going to think about our fitness level when it comes to this. We're going to think about maybe gender, right? You can even look at your physical attributes, right? So even say anatomy, right? Like your height, right? Your weight, general health, you know, simple things. Do you have two functional legs? Some people ironically run marathons while in a wheelchair with one leg, with a prosthetic. So those things you always have to consider, right? Let's see what else. You can even go deep into thinking about the weather, right? Something that's outside of you, but still something you can adjust, right? For you can essentially learn to accommodate or address indirectly. You can't change the weather, but you can think about, okay, what I'm going to wear to make sure that I'm the most comfortable to fulfill the goal of this race. Now, when we talk about this race, we're talking about life, okay? And life is essentially about being born on this planet Earth, essentially forgetting, right? You forgot who you are, meaning you forgot that you are a divine being. 2, remembering, okay? Remembering that you are divine. That's the real race. That's the race of life. Now, what I want you to understand here, and you may be like, Pete, what's going on here? This is a lot, right? What are we talking about? We're essentially talking about the multitude of layers, the metaphysical layers of life, and how, whether it pertains to race, right, as your ethnic race, where you come from, as it pertains to race, as in a physical race that you run, as it pertains to life, as it pertains to spirituality, as it pertains to your finances, as it pertains to your relationships, they all fit under this understanding of what it means to participate in a race. So in one degree or another, you are participating in a race. And so the race is for you to come into understanding that there are factors that play a role in you fulfilling your objective. So this can be looked at as your goal. Okay. And this is essentially your start here on earth. Okay. This isn't your start of all existence because you are infinite. So there really is no start and there truly is no end. This is only as it pertains to this physical world. So we're talking about, this thing, this game, all right, called life. That's what we're talking about. So understand that you here, when we really identify with this game of life, it gets really interesting because depending on how you identify determines the overall experience of this game, of this race. And if you identify with being stuck in the framework of distance and time, basically time and space, then it is going to be a difficult race because you identify with those things. But if you identify with you being divine, being infinite, right, being essentially an expression of God, then you recognize that these things really do not play a major role in the achievement of your goal. Why? Well, because you recognize that you can and will identify with the fact that creation happens instantly within your mind. It's not a matter of true time and distance. Those are just byproducts, right? Those are just expressions of this physical world. But as a spiritual being, when you identify as yourself as a spiritual being, you understand that you are infinite, then you start to break down these concepts and they start to change and morph into something else. They essentially are just byproducts of being in this physical world. They're really not significant when it comes to what it is you desire. Okay. That's what we're talking about here, what you desire and what it is you're meant to experience. So now for you, when people identify more, so for example, this is more of identifying with the ego, right? Which is earthly based, physically based. But you, when you identify with your infinite consciousness, right, that is spiritually based. Spiritual is the thing that fuels and creates, essentially gives life to the physical. All right. So when people identify with this, everything is a matter of when could I get it done? This level of urgency, right? Urgency represents time, how far they can get. What do they have to do? So there's a lot of like tangible, measurable things that they are most concerned about rather than simply taking ownership of the experience or the thing that they desire. This is like Well, we hear about assuming the identity or assuming the thing that you want as if it is. When we talk about feeling, having and owning the feeling of you having that desire, this is essentially what we're talking about. You having the identity of the desire achieved based on your understandings of you being an infinite being. But when you identify with with the ego, okay, and not really quite there with consciousness yet, then you start to see, you know what? Everything becomes about time. Everything becomes about, oh, I don't have either there's not enough time, there's, or the common thing is people feel like there's no time left, that I've lost time, that I've wasted time. Okay. But as you get into your consciousness and aligning with that spiritual aspect of who you are, you recognize, oh, yeah, no, you have plenty of time in the now, in the moment. Okay. So let's see. So as we get into you and identifying, I want to kind of clean this up a little bit because I get how this can look overwhelming. As we get into identity, what I want you to do is when we talked about, say, for example, the metaphor of the physical race and how we had to be mindful about the different elements of things we have to consider in this physical race. You know, we have to think about our fitness, meaning how much we have to train so that way we get to the point of fulfilling our desire and our goal sufficiently, right? Maybe gender, right? Because there's different genders when it comes to the race, right? There's a male race, or when people podium and make it to like number 1, number 2, and number 3, basically those who ran the race the fastest, then they identify that with, okay, these are the top 3 males and these are the top 3 females. Okay. Now that's a thing. Your health, so anatomy, you got to consider that as well, where you are physically. Sometimes that aligns with fitness. The weather, outside elements, you got to account for that. So when any race, right, that connects with you the most, whether it be running a physical race, whether it be a racial race, whether it be spiritual, whether it be a goal that you wish to achieve, you have to consider the elements of what plays a major role in that, you know? So your identity is important. You have to think about, okay, where am I right now when it comes to this race? Right? So you don't necessarily have to be at the start. You can be like right here, right? Because the start is more like birth. Right here is a sense of awareness that you do have the desire, right? That's where the desire starts. And now you wish to actually materialize that desire. That's your goal. So then you want to ask yourself, okay, in this race, where am I? You know, being mindful about your current fitness level. Where are you right now when it comes to this race? So metaphorically, where are you? So if your race is, say, money, and you wish to obtain a certain amount of money, well, then you have to ask yourself, what does your financial fitness look like? Where are you now? If you want $1 million, how much do you have now? Or how much are you generating from a business? Okay. Chances are you're not going to become a millionaire by just working a job unless you're a CEO of a major, Fortune 500 company or something like that. So you're going to create that some other means, right? Some kind of business or some kind of investment. So you have to ask yourself, where am I in my fitness goal? Then you have to ask yourself, okay, what kind of training do I need to do? What do I need to do from this point to this point, right? To make it, to achieve this goal. All right. Gender, when it comes to finances, it may not be an issue for you. We all have our different identities, or this is like your conversation about these topics, right? About this thing. You may assume that, you know what? I am a woman. I am a man, right? That this is going to be different for me. This is going to impact me differently. And you have to consider that compared to everybody else. All right. Especially, and this is really where it matters when you are competing, right? When you are competing, that's when all these things are a factor, right? So you kind of are starting to see where I'm going with this. Your anatomy. So it can be your family structure, how you grew up, your environment, right? The things you were raised to believe. Again, it comes down to your identity. These things, when people are born a certain way, they don't really care. They don't think about it too much. They just decide they're going to run the marathon, that they're going to fulfill the goal, right? They're going to experience the desire. And so they do it regardless. But for people who say have a major life-changing event, something happens, and there's an accident, some traumatic event, this may be an issue, right? There may be something, a block, something that kind of is creating some level of resistance or hardship for them to transcend where they are now to get where they want to be. Weather, thinking about outside influences, thinking about things that can just simply happen, major life events that we have no control over happening. But here's the thing, we have full control over how we respond to it. That's where we think about, okay, well, what I'm going to bring with me, what am I going to prepare for, insurances and assurances and things of that nature, right? What could I do to protect myself so that way, as I'm making this journey, it is the most comfortable for me. So here's the thing that I already hinted on is when it comes to the true spiritual, metaphysical race that you're running, these things really don't matter. Okay. Fitness can probably matter the most. If one of these is going to matter, is going to be you and where you are now, right? So fitness can be looked at as what is the present moment, but still not really relevant, right? So we can scratch these things off. Why? Well, because when you understand identity and the importance of your identity, then you can and should identify with you simply having the goal, the desire, no matter what the situation is. You're not allowing these things that were here to determine what is. Those things are simply expressions of the past self. They're not who you are now. At least they don't have to be if you choose them not to be. You can simply create an identity where no matter what is happening, no matter who else is running their race, because we're all running a race, the truth of the matter is this race is your race and yours alone. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. So this idea that you need to be concerned about things like racial issues, not to say that it doesn't exist and is not real in this physical world, it is very real, but do you have to identify with it to the extent that it affects your race? No. Whether it be health issues, right? Still, your race is your race. Whether it be gender, doesn't matter what gender you are or what gender you identify with. Your race is your race. And you're going to run it, right? You really don't have a choice. Now, you can decide as you're running this race to boo-hoo, ha, and cry about these things. But the fact of the matter is, you still got to run your race. So it is better to identify with you having achieved that desire in your mind in order to get you through the challenges of the race. The challenges are going to be there, right? But you don't want to compound and make more challenges or stack more challenges on other challenges. So you have to identify for you what challenges are chosen and made up in your mind, or rather, though some of those challenges are real things, like I mentioned, the racial issues. That's a real thing. Now, if you find that you're holding on to that issue and you are not moving because of that issue, then you probably are identifying with it too much. You can take that issue, for example, me, I'm a Black man in America. Okay. So I deal with racial issues, but do I give them power over me? Absolutely not. If anything, I can take it, and people of color should take it as a badge of honor that I am so strong that even besides having this issue that I face, I am still running my race and I'm not letting it slow me down. It's almost like running a race with a 40-pound weight vest on. Okay, this is what it is. This is what I'm doing. It doesn't matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter what everybody else is. It doesn't matter how much of an advantage people have over me. I'm going to run my race. All right. So when you think about it from a metaphysical standpoint, this is really about you identifying with that infinite being who you are, stepping outside of the concerns about, distance, time, and even the physical world, right? And moving outside of this space, because you are moving from consciousness, which is beyond, the physical distance and time is beyond those things. So when you step into consciousness, you start to take ownership. You begin to have domain over those things. You see, before I mentioned that this is ego based. Okay. So when you identify with these things, you identify with the ego, and the ego has a conversation of victimhood, whereas consciousness doesn't. Consciousness has a conversation of being victorious and already it being, right? And that's simply it. You are it. Whatever you desire, you are it. So it has already won. That's the mindset of consciousness. The ego is the mindset of loss, being a loser, thinking that everything, physical, everything as it comes to time and space is against you, thinking that the whole universe is against you, but this is a trap. It's a trap, but it's also a valuable lesson when you start to get a glimpse of consciousness. You start to see that, the ego is just simply the game of life. It's kind of part of the race. It's the part of the race that makes the race worth, achieving the goal, getting to the finish line. But the most important thing here is you understanding that though we all run a race, and, I run marathons, running a half marathon this weekend, in fact, and my race is different in so many ways. One, because I'm different. One, because I'm on my own unique journey and I'm doing it for my own reason. But also I'm running part of the race with my partner, and she's only going to be running 5K. So I'm going to run it with her because it's important to me. Like I love doing this with her. So I'm going to run it with her. And then when I'm done running it with her, then I'm going to run the half marathon. So this is me actually creating my own race in this physical race, but life is like that as well. Do not feel like, everybody else does it this way, and so I have to do it exactly that way. You do not, and you should not. You are individual. You are different. You have your own journey. You have your own sense of consciousness. You have your own purpose. You have your own destiny. And so you have to recognize that your journey is going to look like this. Okay? Or is going to look like this. Or is going to look like this. But nonetheless, you are still reaching your destination. So have faith in you. Okay? Run your race. It doesn't matter what your situation is. Do not get caught up, because when we get caught up in what's going on with our senses, what we see, what this person did and how they did it and why they can do it and I can't, and they're different than me and I can't do it and it's too hard. You're identifying with ego. You're identifying with the victim. Okay? But when you recognize that, you know what? It doesn't matter, because they're running their race and I have to run my race. And so I can run my race the way that I want to, as long as I am enjoying it. And that is the race of consciousness. Okay? That is the race of the victor. So we only come from a place of victory here. All right? Never allow yourself, please. I know in this world we live in with social media that we're constantly comparing, right? We're constantly looking at what people are doing, and we get this quick 1 minute snapshot of other people's lives. And then we paint this picture based on our 24-hour, 7 days a week existence, thinking that their snapshot is better than our actual life existence. And it's not like that. You shouldn't do that. All right. Just simply go after, create, materialize, manifest your desires, your goals. All right. Run your race. As long as you are running your race and not concerned about somebody else's race, you will. All right. So take ownership of who you are. I know that this world can create a space where it doesn't support that. It tends to want to shun or shame people for being authentic and being themselves, even though at the same time, it's status quo. In the beginning, though, it's difficult because everybody's going to question and think you're crazy. Who cares? Simply follow the path of your intuition, of your heart. Follow the path of your consciousness and be victorious in your life. That is what I desire of you. Thank you so much. Peace and abundance always.